Switzerland under the Scorpio full moon. And I'm talking a little bit quiet tonight because, not just because it's a Scorpio full moon and it's the mysterious full moon, and not just because it's raining outside, which is so beautiful, but because people are asleep at the hotel and I'm the only freak up at midnight trying to make a video about the full moon. So bear with me. I know I'm going to get comments saying, it's so quiet, turn your voice up, turn the volume up, but hopefully it's worth straining a little bit to hear the message. It's better than not making a video because the energy is going to pass and I won't be able to do it tomorrow because it won't be a full moon anymore. So it'll just be a completely different energy. In fact, the moon will go into Sagittarius tomorrow and apply to Jupiter and we'll be totally out of it. So I don't want to miss the opportunity to tap into this powerful energy I feel tonight. And here I am on Lake Lucerne in Switzerland at the Jungian Odyssey, hanging out with the Jungians, and it's such a treat because normally I'm the one being the facilitator and I get to be the student, which feels amazing. And also, it's an incredible opportunity to connect with other Jungian analysts around the world, and it's the lectures are just off the charts, really amazing, deep subjects, and I love the title, Rupture and Repair. I mean, it doesn't get more Scorpio full moon than Rupture and Repair. So it has me thinking a lot about this, and I'll make a more extensive video about it hopefully this week. But I wanted, before the full moon to pass, to just talk about the idea of Scorpio being the sign of rupture and repair, because Scorpio is a fixed water sign ruled by Mars, is constantly trying to understand the death, rebirth energy and the letting go. It's really a sign that's trying to teach us how to let go. And even though this full moon is in, if you follow Vedic astrology, this full moon's in the nakshatra of Anuradha. And I say that because it's actually the nakshatra I was born under for my ascendant, and I feel very connected to that nakshatra and energy. And I think there's a powerful lesson in it which teaches us about letting go. So the highest level of devotion is letting go and trusting in the divine order of things. And Radha was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. So we can think about what or whom or where our loyalties are and what we feel the most devoted to right now. And then think about what we've had to let go of to get to that place of deepening our devotion and our commitments to those areas. I know in the Sabian symbol world, there's also a lot of powerful metaphor around stepping into a magical kingdom. I can't remember the exact Sabian symbol off the top of my head, but I was really moved by the idea of, like, it's something about stepping into a fairy domain or something. And I thought, here I am, like, walking around Switzerland, which is definitely a fairy domain, in the forest and in the mountains here, the fields. But I've been contemplating a lot about letting go. In the lectures today, we were talking a lot about part of rupture and repair is really delving into all of our interpersonal trauma. All of us usually have some trauma in our background, and that often is what causes us to recreate ruptures in our interpersonal relationships, in our lives, in ourselves. You know, we have fractured parts of our mind, we have fractured parts of our relationships, fractured parts of our history that we're trying to constantly repair. And this full moon is an opportunity to really delve into those parts of our psyche that need our deeper listening, because Taurus is the opposite sign of Scorpio. So we're being invited right now to really deepen our listening practice around whichever wound, deep emotional betrayal. Scorpio often is very connected to emotional betrayals in our lives. Wherever we have experienced great loss. Scorpio is the death archetype in the tarot, so we may be grieving some of our losses right now. We may be looking into how we deal with loss, how we deal with grief, how we deal with letting go. This, let's not forget, was the full moon that Buddha was enlightened under, because he reached a place of complete non-attachment. But as humans, on our way up, that is our ultimate goal, obviously, to have such a deep sense of love and interconnectedness with all, that there's that supreme non-attachment. It's different than detachment, which we all think, oh, sometimes that can be an ego defense. Oh, I'm so detached. But Buddha was in non-attachment through love, and this is the highest potential and vibration of that Taurus Scorpio polarity, to be at one with all the beauty around you, Taurus, and at the same time the complete destruction, Scorpio, of all that, the impermanence of life. That's the Scorpio teaching, that nothing is permanent. And we learn through loss. We learn the hard way often that nothing is permanent. So how do we step into our own depths? And Anne Ulanov, one of my favorite Jungian analysts here this afternoon, gave a beautiful keynote about the below. One of the things she brought up, her talk was really looking at the way trauma and transcendence are, she said, not contained within the same. They're not one and the same, but there's a, how did she say it? There's a relationship. There's an interdependence between the two, more than they're fused together or in a polarity. It's more of a interdependence where they kind of weave in and out of each other, because it's dangerous if we try to transcend. We can't really transcend our trauma, but we need to have a connection to something infinite in order to heal it. And in order to get that, she was saying, we need to be willing to go into what she calls the below. And that felt very Scorpio to me, because we often talk about the underworld with Pluto or Scorpio, but if we take some of that connotation, which can be a little bit loaded mythologically, the underworld, and we just call it the below, I think we can connect to something maybe more personal and interpersonal and impersonal at the same time with the concept of the below. So how do you get into your own below, and what's hanging out there? And what is it? The other thing she said that I loved was, we might ask when we're in the below, will this bleed forever? And how do we then move through something that feels like a place that we're never going to rise from again? And of course we do. We rise from our own ashes of that which we're willing to let go of. So we're really contemplating loss and grief and our process, our death process, whatever that is. Doesn't mean it has to be an actual physical death, but how do we process loss, and how do we look into our own secrets, our own betrayals, our own fears around loss of control, loss of, or perhaps the fear of emotional vulnerability. All of this is really heightened, and we might look back to what was happening for us 6 months ago. If we go back to the new moon in Scorpio story, which happened last fall, I can't remember if the moon fell in October or November, but 6 months ago approximately. And that's really coming to a head now, and how we deal with that. And the last thing I want to say, because my video keeps cutting off, and I just even had one with no sound, and now it's getting really late, but of course I'm wearing the Venus shirt to be in solidarity with women right now. And this is also a big full moon in Scorpio theme, because the full moon is answering to Mars in Cancer. They're in each other's signs, so there's what we call a mutual reception dialogue going on between these two energies, which heightens the battlefield around our reproductive rights as women. So I'm not surprised this issue is flaring up. I'm sad to see that it's showing up the way it is, but it's also bringing everyone to, speaking of the rise, to rise up, and for women to speak out. And I hope more men will speak out too. And it's tragic that it was a woman trying to sign this into power, right? So here we are looking at the shadow of control, right? And power. And I'm going to make a longer video or podcast about this with my Saturn sister, but I wanted to at least acknowledge and explain why I'm wearing my Venus shirt, to stand in solidarity with women right now. And so I hope everyone keeps speaking up and out about this, because it's a really important time. And thanks for watching.